Who has the greatest destiny? Who's the most ambitious? Who's the most intense? Who's the most loving? Who's the luckiest? In this palm reading comparison, I'm going to be looking at every member of BTS to discover who has the greatest of these attributes. In this video, I'm going to be comparing all 7 members of BTS and confirming or denying your bias and looking at these 7 attributes. Now, I have scoured the internet for images of every single member of BTS, and what I have uncovered might surprise you. Let me know what your thoughts are, drop a comment, and please do like and subscribe. I'm going to be beginning with Namjoon. In my mind, Namjoon is definitely the most analytical. He's a natural leader. Any headline that begins this high up always kind of creates someone that people wish to follow in the footsteps of. His fingers are long and knotty, and this slows down thought processes, making people more detail orientated. And his headline is also quite long as well. He's easily the most analytical. And as well as that, his fate line is remarkably strong and it's straight, and it's actually, in my mind, it's showing how he feels about his destiny. He feels very strongly about his own fate and that he probably doesn't have any real choice in his own destiny. However, look at this. There is a mole attached to his lifeline. Now, this is extremely rare, and it's a surefire sign of luck. He's certainly extremely ambitious, and obviously with this fate line here, he's at least one of the most destined. But I have to say, I believe Namjoon is in fact the luckiest member of BTS. So what I'm going to do is kind of mark down what I think about their attributes and just sort of come back to this. Then at the end of this video, I'm just going to kind of summarize and go over who I think is all of each, with who is next in line. Namjoon is the luckiest, then J-Hope, then, in my opinion, V, based on what I see in their hands. So we'll come back to this list. Next, let's look at who is most loving. I'm finding this one really difficult because they are, in their many varied ways, all very affectionate, all very loving and caring, compassionate, and they express these in different ways. Jin is highly charitable and has a very kind of philanthropic sense of idealism about him. V has a huge heart, but I think for me, the most loving, the most affectionate, the most giving all round is probably Jimin. Having said that, Sugar is extremely generous and again, very charitable, has a massively kind of philanthropic sense of idealism as well. So, as I've mentioned, there's different ways in which we reveal how we show love. And for Sugar, he's far more about showing up, about um, providing effort and time and money for other people's problems and solutions. And I do think that Sugar will do a lot for people. So I'm actually going to say Sugar. It's a close one, and as I've said, we all reveal how we love, how we show our love in different ways. But I feel like overall it's Sugar. Next to that, oh, do you disagree? I, you agree? Next to that is probably Jin, and then Jimin. And the reason why I say that is because Jin is kind of all round, has a very varied, um, lots of love languages, and he's very able in expressing himself in those ways. He's very healthy in that respect. So in my mind, Sugar is the most loving, but it's actually really close call between Sugar and Jin. I mean, honestly, Pixie is the most loving, but you're not a member of BTS, unfortunately. Who is the most sensitive? Now, Jimin absolutely ranks up there immediately in my mind. There's no doubt about that. He is right up there. But on close inspection, V is absolutely highly sensitive as well. And again, there's different ways in which we can be sensitive. V is highly psychic. If you've watched my palm reading video on V, you'll know that I've mentioned this. Both Namjoon and JK have simian lines, which makes them very sensitive, just because their thoughts and feelings are fused. They are as one, and they both have something of a girdle of Venus as well, which absolutely increases sensitivity and urges, physical urges as well. They are kind of tied in with emotional ones as well. It also makes them more creative. So there is absolutely sensitivity here, but emotionally speaking, Jimin is certainly he's very sensitive individual and highly self-critical. He really takes things to heart, and no one is a greater critic to Jimin than himself. And that's always evident when we see a significantly short Jupiter finger, and given that we see other signs in the hand that create sensitivity, not just the texture, but the way the hand appears itself in terms of its appearance, in its texture, but the shape of it as well, and just how rounded, soft, and intuitive looking. V has the greatest intuitive of all of the hand types out of BTS. There's no doubt in my mind that he is someone with immensely powerful, uh, inborn kind of inherent instincts. And for this reason, by his nature, he cannot help but to be sensitive and pick up on things that others just can't. Anyone with pointed fingers has these remarkable instincts. A low-lying heart line like this, reaching up in between Saturn and Jupiter. He's got a strong sense of ethics. They all do, really. Um, the capacity to love is greater. The headline drooping as low down as it does means that he is far more in touch with his subconscious, and for this reason, again, with everything combined, he is much more sensitive to everything outside of the five senses. And not only that, he's more sensitive to um, he's more physically susceptible, so his immune system isn't quite as strong as a lot of the other members as well. And this is a very common drawback when it comes to actually having psychic gifts, which I believe he does in fact have. And you can see the reduction of the Venus mount here by the narrowing kind of lifeline and its curvature always provides someone with less constitution, less vitality, and that's what V has. So, according to palmistry, and obviously my own subjective interpretation using it, I believe V is the most sensitive. Next to that, probably Jimin. Um, After that, I'll let you know at the end of the video. So, who has the greatest fate out of every member of BTS? So, the left hand always reveals our feelings about things, our thoughts and feelings. It's everything that is within. The right hand reveals the actual physical manifestations of those thoughts and feelings, or the events, occurrences in our life. So, it's kind of difficult here when I don't have clear images of both the left and the right hands of everyone. And as I've mentioned earlier, Namjoon has strong feelings about how he's on a certain course and there's just no getting off it. People that have a fate line like this that cut the palm in two, it shows they have a greater destiny. Now, being that it's in the left hand, this is, of course, his thoughts and feelings about it. The right hand image isn't, unfortunately, as clear, so I can't provide that clarity. But, I will say their thoughts and feelings about their fate is very different from the physical and the external forces at play. Jin also feels very strongly about his destiny. Sugar does as well. And this has massively impacted him, particularly up to the age of 35, in a very strong way. JK is similar as well. In fact, most of the members of BTS feel very strongly about destiny, and I think they probably have some of these things in common about the kind of cosmic forces at play and their purposes in life. For me, though, I feel that J Hope has the strongest destiny. Anyone who has a fate line that stems from the lunar mount this low down is said to be acting out, continuing their purpose from a previous life that they were unable to complete. J Hope has unfinished business, and that's partly the reason why where they are in life. Next to J-Hope is probably Sugar, has, the most impactful destiny, has more of a fate, so to speak, because some of us have a greater ability to carve our own destinies. Jimin is someone like this. Jimin has truly managed to shift the tides of his own fate. So for me, it's J-Hope that is the most destined. Who is the most ambitious? The mount of ambition is absolutely the Jupiter mount. Now, the size of the mount increases the quantity. The height of the mount, which obviously we can't really get a great idea of from these images, increases the quality. Size equals quantity, height equals quality. V has a great amount of ambition, but the ability here, the quality of it, is not necessarily all that strong. You can see that the amount of it is increased by the way the Jupiter finger sits apart, which it kind of makes the Jupiter mount itself larger, the space of it wider. If his headline was a little bit higher, I would say that he is remarkably ambitious. And as well as that, if his thumb was a little bit stronger, a little bit heavier, a bit more determined, then the quality of his ambition would be greater. Sugar's ambition is striking. His thumb is just tremendous. The Jupiter mount sits higher on any other mount. Again, that's his priorities here. He's placing ambition and pride and honor and ego and all of these Jupiterian qualities. These are kind of higher on his list of core principles. The trajectory of a person's lifeline also reveals the nature of a person's courageousness and boldness to kind of explore the unfamiliar. And as well as that, obviously, look at this lifeline and the way it looks like it's firing right out of the Jupiter mount itself. Obviously, every member of BTS is ambitious. And out of all of these attributes, this is probably the most difficult to kind of sum up who is the most of this one being the most ambitious. They are all ambitious. And again, I think ambition is something that we all exhibit in different ways as well. I feel like J-Hope is certainly at least one of the most ambitious of all members of BTS, but I also feel like Jimin as well. Did you think I was gonna spread them all out evenly so each one member has one thing that they're the most of? Because that's just not how life works. I'm sorry, but I do believe that J-Hope is in fact the most ambitious out of every member. Following on from J-Hope, you're just gonna have to wait till the end of the video. Who is the most creative? This is gonna be the worst one. Why, you didn't ask? Because they are all obviously extremely creative. And again, we express creativity in a variety of ways. The lunar mount is obviously the place of imagination. It's not the same thing as creativity. Obviously, to be creative, it's helpful to have a strong imagination. Every member of BTS has a good lunar mount, has some of them obviously much stronger, larger than others, and more pronounced. But if you don't have a headline that reaches into this effectively and a thumb to effectively carry out those creative thoughts and ideas, well, it's kind of all for nothing. Then you end up just being a dreamer. And the headline here, if we notice a headline that's curved like this has a bit of a kink in it, and that means that J-Hope has both a very practical and creative edge. So there's two sides to J-Hope, and that makes sense because J-Hope is utterly an air hand, having a square palm and very long fingers. It means that they are all about concept. So whilst they are um, they're very driven in the way in which how they use their ideas. Conclusion, concept, debate, ideas, thinking. These are concepts which J-Hope is more drawn to. And how can we use those creative ideas to how do they reflect the reality? I suppose that's how best to sum up J-Hope. But other members of BTS have a more kind of a natural curvature to their headlines, which makes them more inherently, I suppose, artistically creative. There's different types of creativity. And so I would say the person who is most strongly creative is someone who has both a tremendous bank of imagination and a naturally kind of healthy curvature to the headline, almost like a bow. That's kind of what we need to be seeing here, like an actual literal bow and arrow bow. Think out of everyone, it's probably V. As I've mentioned, he's extremely sensitive, he's extremely psychic. And if you can't not have an incredible imagination, incredible, um, a well of almost fantastical, dark thoughts, dreams, and the subconscious are strong with V, and he's highly connected to them, to his subconscious, to all that is abstract. And of course, in order to be creative, we need to have a strong imagination. So we can't really be creative without that first. Jimin has an exceptional bank of imagination, but so does V. Look at it, it's almost sort of pronounced here, and it's larger higher up, which is much more inclined. This is very, very common to see this on choreographers, dancers, martial artists, stunt choreographers, people who really use their body in muscle memory. And this is linked to memory and short-term memory. This aspect is it's a greater kind of subconscious, um, instinctive, response, muscle memory. So inherently, he's really gifted in this way and has a strong subconscious in this way. But also, his headline reaches really kind of low down into lunar, as it does here. So he's much more able to draw on uh, the unreal, the fantasy. He's a dreamer, essentially. And his thumb, although it's not thick and heavy and stubborn, and he's not tremendously willful, but it is quite long, so he's a deep thinker, and it enables his ability to action those deep thoughts. Now, Jin, he's also very creative, and you can see that, Luna's well developed. The headline has got a good curvature to it. It's long enough to reach into Luna itself, past the Apollo mount, which is exactly what we want to be seeing. But the thumb, whilst it's heavy enough, it's not quite long enough. So he's not deep thinking enough. He's not going into and exploring as much as someone like V in terms of his subconscious. The curvature of the headline allows us to say, what if? What if we do this? What if we try this out? What happens when we put both of these ideas together? What happens? It's a kind of ability to be sort of flexible and creative, bold with our ideas. It's a certain kind of mental bridge. JK's headline is he obviously is very creative, but there's a certain sort of pragmatism to him. There's not as much flexibility in his mental approach. However, he's very efficient at carrying out his ideas. So for me, it's got to be V. He is the most creative. It's partly because there's just so much water in his hands. Find out my verdict on the others that follow from this in terms of creativity. Now, next we're going to be looking at who is the most passionate. Namjoon's simian line here is seen in both hands, and this is always a sign of intensity. And as I've mentioned, thought and feeling are fused, they are as one. It's not really possible for Namjoon or JK to make a decision without there being some emotion attached to it. They both have simian lines in both hands. Now, for me, it's kind of a no-brainer here. Intensity, passion, possessiveness even, and jealousy, especially when we see the simian line in the left hand, where the domestic sphere, family, friends, close relationships are concerned. There is a far greater degree of becoming kind of all-encompassing in relationships, absorbing and not necessarily controlling, but just It's almost like there's an inability not to kind of soak the other person up, and it comes across as possessive. And absolutely, JK and Namjoon are the jealous types. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing because it means they feel so strongly. They are essentially incredibly passionate. They cannot help but to separate thought from emotion. Everything they do has the entirety of their beings behind it. They are just so focused, so intense. And this is partly why they are just so able in everything they do. Now, I haven't really mentioned JK all that much in this video, and that is partly because, in fact, JK encompasses everything that I have said. He's kind of an all-rounder in terms of everything I've said so far in this video, except for this one. For this reason, this one is actually the easiest attribute to apply to the seven members. It's absolutely, for me, it is JK. He is the most passionate. Next to that, I would say it has to be Namjoon, purely because of what the palms are showing me here, which is to say, I this is how I work when I create these videos. Obviously, I've written their ages down, but I don't know all that much about BTS, and I don't really care to because it can and will cloud my judgment when interpreting from what the hands say. Next to JK and Namjoon, in terms of passion, that that's where it gets a bit more difficult. And as well as that, what does passionate mean? We all, again, express our passion in different ways. For example, Jin's high idealism is, he feels very passionately about um, his ideas for what he wants for other people. And as I've mentioned, that he's very charitable. He's got really strong ideas and probably puts people on a pedestal in relationships and gets hurt because of these things. So there's different ways in which we can be passionate about our causes and about our ideas and concepts. And J Hope, again, he's all about concept. And as well as that, how can you be ambitious without passion? And they are all, of course, ambitious people. Every member of BTS is, of course, passionate. And I would say JK is probably the most intense. And next to that, obviously, Namjoon. But after that, that's where it gets a bit more difficult. So we've come to the end of this video. I'm going to summarize because what could be more entertaining than a chart, a diagram, a graph? There we go. A little bit of schoolwork here. These are just my interpretations, just my thoughts and feelings on all of the attributes I've talked about regarding every member of BTS. I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to know what surprised you the most. I want to know if this aligned with your own thoughts and feelings. Did my readings match your bias? I want to know if you found it interesting. I want to know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, and let me know what your thoughts are on this video.